a global superstar, a billion-dollar empire. And now, a former employee testifies she was kidnapped at gunpoint in a plot to unalive Kid Cudi. What started as a music legacy is unraveling into something darker, something deadly. This is the story they tried to silence. For years, Sean Diddy Combs was untouchable, an icon of hip-hop, fashion, and business. But behind the bright lights and luxury branding, disturbing secrets were allegedly festering. Former insiders are stepping forward, revealing a world built not just on music and money, but on fear, manipulation, and violence. And one woman's testimony just blew the case wide open. Her name is Capricorn Clark. She was once one of Diddy's top aides, his global brand director. But now, she's at the center of an explosive federal trial, claiming that Diddy didn't just threaten her life. He kidnapped her, weapon in hand, and forced her to help him confront and possibly unalive another artist, Kid Cudi. It sounds like something out of a thriller, but this is real, and it's unfolding in a New York courtroom. Capricorn Clark's very first day working for Sean Diddy Combs didn't come with a handshake or a welcome tour. Instead, it came with a threat, a cold, chilling one. According to Clark, she was barely settling into her new role when Diddy and one of his security staff took her out to Central Park late at night. It was after 9 p.m., and what should have been an introduction quickly turned into an interrogation. That's when he hit her with a bombshell. He'd just found out she'd worked with some of his rap rivals. And in Diddy's world, that wasn't just a red flag, it was a potential unalive sentence. Clark says Diddy looked her dead in the eye and told her point blank, "If this ever becomes a problem, I'll have to unalive you. Not fire her, not blacklist her, unalive her." She was stunned, but not stupid. In that moment, she understood exactly what kind of world she was stepping into. This wasn't just a demanding boss or a high-pressure music job. This was something else entirely. Something darker. Something dangerous. And what's more disturbing, that wasn't even the worst of it. If Clark had any hope that Diddy's unalive threat was just a one-time scare tactic, that illusion didn't last long. Just a few weeks into the job, she was handed an assignment that seemed simple on the surface. Carry a few pieces of Diddy's diamond jewelry on a flight to Miami. It wasn't unusual in the music industry. High-end assets, private jets, expensive trips. But then, something went missing. The jewelry disappeared. And in Diddy's world, that wasn't just a problem. It was a crisis. What followed wasn't a conversation, or even an investigation. It was psychological warfare. Clark says she was taken to an empty building in Manhattan, cold and isolated, where she spent the next 5 days being interrogated. Not by police, not by legal teams, but by a man who looked like he belonged in a wrestling ring, someone Clark described as 5 times her size. He strapped her into a lie detector machine. Over and over, day after day, they grilled her with the same questions. Where was the jewelry? Did she steal it? Who was she working for? And then came the real threat, the one that made it clear this wasn't about diamonds anymore. If you fail this test, they're going to throw you in the East River. Clark was terrified, isolated, powerless, but eventually they let her go. No jewelry recovered, no charges filed, just silence, and the clear message that in Diddy's world, fear was a management tool. This was no ordinary workplace. This was a system of control, one built on intimidation, secrecy, and the constant threat of violence. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. A late-night knock, a loaded firearm, and a chilling demand. "We're going to unalive Cudi." December 2011. A cold Los Angeles morning that Capricorn Clark will never forget. She was at home when Diddy showed up unexpectedly with a firearm in his hand. No warning, no explanation, just a chilling command. "Get dressed. We're going to unalive Cudi." Clark didn't have time to think. She got in the car, his black Cadillac Escalade, with Diddy and one of his bodyguards. They drove straight to Kid Cudi's house. Why? Because Diddy had found out that Cassie, the woman he was controlling, the woman he wasn't ready to let go of, was secretly seeing Cudi. And to Diddy, that was a declaration of war. As they pulled up to Cudi's home, Clark was panicking. She sat frozen in the car while Diddy and his bodyguard stormed inside. She could only do one thing, call Cassie. But what she said next sent shivers through the courtroom. Clark testified, "Puff got me with a firearm and brought me to Cudi's house to unalive him." On the other end of the line, she could hear Cudi's voice, confused and alarmed. "He's in my house?" Clark begged Cassie to stop him. "He's going to get himself unalived," she said. But Cassie answered helplessly, "I can't stop him." Moments later, Diddy came storming back to the car, furious. He grabbed Clark's phone, demanding to know who she was talking to. Then he called Cassie himself. Just as things seemed like they were about to explode, Cudi's car started approaching. But this time, the danger flipped. Diddy and his bodyguard jumped back into the Escalade and began chasing him down city streets, heading toward Cudi's home. But then they saw police. Flashing lights. Cruisers approaching from the opposite lane. And just like that, Diddy called it off. But he wasn't done. Because now, the mission was about covering it all up. "We've got to convince him it wasn't me," Diddy told everyone in the car. "If you don't, I'll live all you mother beepers." This wasn't just rage. This was a man trying to erase what just happened by any means necessary. And as the dust settled, Clark would face an even more horrifying scene watching Cassie get quote-unquote in trouble just for being with another man. What happened after the failed ambush wasn't a quiet retreat. It was a brutal reminder of who Diddy really was behind closed doors. According to Clark, not long after the attempted confrontation with Cudi, she and Cassie went to Cudi's home. Not to report the incident, not to get help, but to manage the fallout, to beg him not to go to the police. Because in Diddy's inner circle, loyalty didn't just mean silence. It meant survival. But just when Clark thought the chaos had ended, Diddy lashed out again, this time in the most vicious way yet. She described a horrifying moment at Diddy's home. Cassie, shaken and vulnerable, had returned with her. Maybe to talk, maybe to plead. But what happened next was pure violence. Clark testified that Diddy began assaulting Cassie with full force, no hesitation, no mercy. He kicked her legs, her back, over and over. Cassie curled up in the fetal position, on the ground, silently weeping. And Clark, she stood frozen, watching. "I wanted to help her," she told the court. "My heart was breaking from seeing her get hit like that." But she didn't intervene. Neither did the bodyguard. No one moved. Because by then, fear had done its job. No one dared challenge Diddy. Not even to protect a woman being beaten in front of them. It was a moment that shattered any illusion of this being just another celebrity scandal. This was deeper, more disturbing. It wasn't about jealousy anymore. It was about domination. And the message was loud and clear. Anyone who crossed Diddy, even emotionally, would pay the price. But the more Clark tried to leave this world behind, the more dangerous her reality became, including one moment where she nearly disappeared. Years before the plot against Cudi, before the assault on Cassie, there was another disturbing episode that revealed just how far Diddy would go to keep control. Clark recounted an incident early in her employment when a piece of diamond jewelry, worth thousands, went missing while she was traveling for work. But instead of an investigation or even a warning, what followed was a psychological nightmare. Clark says she was taken to a nearly abandoned building in Manhattan. There were no police, no HR, just her, and a massive man hired by Diddy to find out the truth. Over 5 days, she was subjected to repeated lie detector tests, alone, exhausted, and terrified. The man questioning her towered over her, a physical reminder of the power imbalance at play. And then came the threat. "If you fail this test, they're going to throw you in the East River." This wasn't just paranoia, it was systematic. Diddy wasn't just worried about theft. He was obsessed with loyalty, secrecy, and fear. Eventually, they let her go back to work. No apology, no explanation, just another day in the empire of Puff. And for Clark, it became clearer each day. This wasn't just a music label. It was a machine built on control, intimidation, and the unspoken rule that you never cross the man at the top. But the most chilling part? Even after all that, she stayed, and what kept her there reveals even more about how deep this web of fear and silence truly ran. You'd think after all the threats, the assaults, the lies, Clark would have run. But she didn't, and neither did most of the people around Diddy. Why? Because inside Bad Boy Entertainment, silence wasn't just expected, it was enforced. Clark described a culture where everyone knew what was happening, but no one dared to say it out loud. Massive bodyguards, employees who vanished overnight, and a boss who made it known if you spoke up, you might not be around to regret it. There was no HR, no complaints department, just fear, just loyalty, just survival. Prosecutors now claim this wasn't accidental. They argue that Diddy spent years building this environment, intentionally a racketeering operation disguised as a record label, where every employee knew their role. Protect the boss, cover for the violence, and never ever talk. And for Clark, breaking that silence now on the witness stand, in front of a federal courtroom, wasn't just brave. It was dangerous. Because the man she's testifying against isn't just a musician. He's a mogul, a billionaire, a man used to getting what he wants. But as more stories pile up and more survivors come forward, the walls around Diddy's empire are beginning to crack. Clark's testimony might sound shocking, but it's far from the only one. Federal prosecutors say Diddy's pattern of behavior dates back more than 2 decades, with multiple women and former employees echoing the same terrifying themes: violence, control, manipulation, and retaliation. At the center of it all is Cassie, whose own civil lawsuit first brought many of these allegations to light. Her claims of physical abuse, manipulation, and imprisonment shocked the public, but those close to the situation say it was only the tip of the iceberg. Kid Cudi's testimony added yet another voice confirming that Clark really did call him that night, warning that Diddy was outside, armed and dangerous. "He's in my house?" Cudi reportedly asked. The disbelief in his voice captured what everyone is now realizing: this wasn't just a messy drama. It was something far darker. With each new witness, the puzzle pieces are snapping into place. And what they form isn't the image of a misunderstood celebrity. It's a portrait of a man allegedly running his empire through fear and brutality. Diddy has pleaded not guilty to every charge. His legal team has dismissed the allegations as outrageous, exaggerated, and part of a smear campaign. But the weight of the testimony from Clark, from Cudi, and others is mounting. Federal prosecutors are pushing to prove this isn't just a celebrity scandal. It's a criminal conspiracy that spanned 2 decades, involving trafficking, kidnapping, threats, and a tightly managed circle of silence. If convicted, Diddy could face 15 years to life in prison. And the bigger question now isn't just what happens to him. It's how many people helped him cover it all up. Record labels, security teams, publicists. How many turned a blind eye while the abuse happened behind closed doors? Capricorn Clark's testimony pulled back the curtain, and what it revealed was something far more chilling than anyone expected. Because this isn't just about one man's downfall. It's about an industry's reckoning. And as the trial continues, one thing is becoming more clear with every witness. The truth might be darker than we ever imagined.